Thank you very much for inviting me. Happy Hanukkah to everyone. I just want to dedicate this gathering Leilui Nishma of Eliezer. Um, he was a soul brother to me. And so for those that didn't get a chance to really know him, he was one of the only people that you can authentically say that he was more of an angel than a man. And in Hebrew, you say, Huaya gadol mehachaim. He was literally larger than life and the most real person that I've ever met. I mean, the world is much less real now. There's so much sheker and so much fake, virtue signaling and just a lot of like people falling into line with what they think they should do or what they should say. Or he was just real as can be. And so he is very, very missed. I feel like Israel has lost a lot of soldiers. And although he was in Miluim, he was really a part of Hashem's army. And we lost a general. And it's just such a loss. And so may this be Le'ilui Nishmato, this gathering. And so I'm invited here to speak about Hanukkah. Really, Bayamim Hahem Bazman Hazeh. That's the bracha that we say in those days at this time. And 200 years ago, I don't even know what that bracha meant in those days at this time. But now that bracha has never been more meaningful because it just so happens that the modern day Maccabees, the IDF, the soldiers of Israel, are standing victoriously in Syria, in the same place where the Maccabees defeated the Greek Syrian Empire almost 3,000 years ago. As we're celebrating Hanukkah, we are once again standing victoriously against our enemies that are ruthless and wicked. And we say that Hashem passed, or he allowed the few to destroy the many. And we also say that he allowed the righteous to destroy the wicked, or that he handed the wicked into the righteous hands. And it's like, why is that a part of the prayers? Because wickedness, they'll rape people in the Nova Peace Music Festival. They'll shoot rockets onto children playing soccer in the north. They'll shoot ballistic missiles just to kill as many people as possible. So, logically, in a war, the wicked have an advantage. And in Hanukkah, we thank God for the righteous overcoming the wicked. And we are literally living this replay of Hanukkah over again, that the enemies are much larger than Israel. Gaza in the south, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Assad in Syria, Iran backed by Russia and China. It's like the little Jews in the Holy Land are up against, once again, insurmountable odds, impossible odds. And how could a small group of priests in the temple go up against the legacy of Alexander the Great, the Greek Empire? It's just impossible. And here we are again fighting against Hellenism. I mean, Hellenism sort of went to sleep for forever. There wasn't Hellenism 300 years ago or 400 years ago. But today there really is Hellenism. There is a celebration of pride and sexuality in the streets of Jerusalem. And there's just this woke is what we call it today. But wokeism is modern day Hellenism. And we are, and the woke people are trying to take away Israel's independence and our freedom. And Shimon, Simon the Maccabee, in the 15th chapter of the book of Maccabees, it's as if he's speaking to the woke people today. And this is a direct quote from the book of Maccabees. We have not taken foreign land and not seized the property of others. We have taken our ancestors' inheritance, the land of our fathers, which was for some time unjustly stolen from us by our enemies. And today, the Jews are saying the same thing. We're not occupying, colonizing, settlers trying to take away anything that doesn't belong to us. We are called Jews because we're from Judea. And so the world can call us West Bank colonizing settlers, evacuate this political territory. And then just like Simon said, like, we're not coming to take anything that doesn't belong to us. It's not that the land belongs to us. We belong to the land. The same way that Germans are called Germany Because they're from Germany. And Chinese are called Chinese because they're from China. Japanese are from Japan, and Mexicans are from Mexico. And every people is named after the place where they're from. Jews are called Jews because we're from Judea. And so we are once again fighting for our independence and our liberation. And most importantly, we're really fighting for our Jewish identity inside Israel and out. And of course, that's what Eliezer was fighting for. And that's exactly what the essence of Livnot U'Libanot is, that as you're building up Israel, hopefully the people that join are really rebuilding themselves. They're lihibanot, they are rebuilding, they're building themselves. And what are they trying to build? They're trying to build their hearts. They're trying to build their identities. They're trying to build the Yiddishkeit within them. And so in order to really make Hanukkah meaningful for us in 2000 and almost 25, we have to really ask ourselves, what is at the heart of Judaism? What is at the essence of it all? Because if you take a look, Hanukkah is not even in the Bible. Hanukkah is not mentioned in the Torah. It's where is it? Like we only have the book of Maccabees because the Catholic Church saved the book that was written, I guess, originally in Hebrew, but translated into Greek. We don't even have the original book, but like that wasn't. What is Judaism? Meaning, let's start at the beginning. We have Abraham. Was he Jewish? He wasn't even called Jewish. He was called a Hebrew. And he didn't have Judaism because the Torah wasn't given yet. What was Abraham? He was the first Jew. And then there was Isaac and Jacob, and they didn't have the Torah either. Then I guess there was generations in Egypt. And then there was Moses. Moses gave us the Torah and told us, all right, this is what you should do and this is what you shouldn't do. Then there was a temple, and the temple that the Maccabees were fighting for, there was animals and sacrifices and blood and wine, and then the temple was destroyed by Rome because Rome eventually conquered Greece. Why was Rome able to conquer Alexander the Great's legacy? Because of the Maccabees. The Maccabees so weakened Greece that Rome was able to finally overthrow Greece, and then they eventually destroyed us as well. But what is that about? There was a temple with sacrifices. The temple was destroyed, and then Judaism did its very best to package up the temple experience and said, well, we'll blow the shofar now on Rosh Hashanah because you can't visit the temple. And we'll shake a lulav and etrog in our homes. And we tried to do whatever we could to sort of preserve Judaism in the exile for 2,000 years. And now there are rabbis on YouTube Shorts. What is that about? What is the connection between all of those versions of Judaism? Abraham, Moses, the temple, YouTube Shorts. What is that? Meaning, on the outward expression, the Judaism of today and of yesteryear, they all outwardly express something very different. That when you look at them from someone else's perspective, it doesn't even look like the same religion, but yet still it is the same religion. So the question for us to get to the heart of Hanukkah, we have to ask the question, what is at the heart of Judaism? What is the what is the string that connects all of those generations and all of those externalities of Judaism? And if we can get to the essence of what it is to be a Jew, if we can touch at the heart of Judaism, then we can really understand maybe why Hanukkah is so important. Because the same way that making aliyah to Israel is not one of the commandments in the Torah. It's not one of the 613. Why? Like, why? I mean, it's like honor your mother and father, keep Shabbat, make aliyah, eat kosher. Why isn't one of the commandments to live in Israel? And the answer is that living in Israel is the entire Torah. It's the whole purpose. Where God chose one people in one land to manifest his will to build a kingdom that will be a light unto the nations. We should live by the Torah in the land of Israel, but outside of the land, it's just a religion. And Judaism was never meant to be a religion. It was meant to be a mission in a land with a God and a people. And so it can't just be counted amongst the commandments if it is the pretext of all of the commandments. And so too Hanukkah. No one knows who the author of the book of Maccabees is. No one understands much about this holiday at all because it is the ultimate Jewish holiday. It is the holiday that encompasses all of our holidays. So if we can touch at what's the heart of Judaism, we can definitely touch at what's at the heart of Hanukkah. And so I would like to tell you guys a little bit, go like a little bit into the Torah, because my wife pointed out something brilliant. She says, well, let's learn a little bit about Hanukkah. And she opened up the Rambam. And Maimonides, of course, is very methodical, very organized. And he was the first one in Jewish history to actually take the entire corpus of the Torah all together and systematically lay it out that we would have an organized Torah for the world to actually understand. And it's interesting because what do we do on Hanukkah? There's nothing really much to do. And Sukkot, you have to sit in the sukkah all day, every day, sleep in the sukkah, eat in the sukkah, meet in the sukkah, everything. It's like all encompassing. If you want to eat Pesach, you got to eat matzah all the time. You're never allowed to eat bread. You have to eat matzah and not eat bread all the time. Hanukkah, it's kind of like, well, we light candles at nighttime, and then that's it. Like, no, we don't have to do anything. What is that? What kind of holiday is that? Why is there not much to do for Hanukkah? And Maimonides says, actually, there is something that we do in Hanukkah, and it's so unique that he lays out the laws that lay down the laws for all other holidays in the holiday of Hanukkah. And that is the davening, the tefillah, the prayer that we say called Hallel in davening on Shacharit. And Hallel is what we say at every Jewish holiday, but the Rambam goes out of his way and says Hanukkah is Hallel. And then he goes into all the details of Hallel and when to say it and what to say it and how we say it in the actual part where he talks about Hanukkah. And that's really unique because Hanukkah is like not a biblical holiday. And it's like, why? I mean, there's actually a section in Maimonides about prayer. Why not put the Hallel prayer in the section of the prayers? Why not put the Hallel prayer in Passover or in all of the other holidays that we say it? He specifically chose Hanukkah to explicate and articulate Hallel because he says Hallel is the essence of Hanukkah. It means to give thanks, to give praise, to give gratitude to God for the holiday. And so somehow at the heart of Hanukkah, it's a lot of people correlate Christmas and Hanukkah because it comes out at the same time. But according to Maimonides, it's much closer to correlate Thanksgiving with Hanukkah because Hanukkah is all about Thanksgiving and Hallel. And so we're supposed to give thanks to God for the miracles. But if you study the book of Maccabees, it doesn't really make sense because why is the book of Hanukkah celebrating the rededication of the temple? The book of Hanukkah talks about the entire war until all of our independence from the land of Israel. And the miracle of the Hanukkah candles happened only in the third year. The battle lasted another 20 some odd years. So it's like, what's going on here? We just started the battle and we're already giving thanks. Like that's pretty unique. And it's such an important thanks that it defines Hallel for all other Jewish holidays. Like what's going on there? So I'll tell you in my own personal experience what that must be like, because I feel like it must be talking to us in our times. October 7th happened and it was a disaster. It was the hardest thing that I've seen in my lifetime. And I'm 45, been in Israel most of my life since I was a little kid. And I never experienced any sort of thing like October 7th ever. And it manifests in the world um, something that I'd never seen before. I'd never seen evil manifest. I sort of lived with kind of like, yes, well, there's the evil in our hearts, and we have to not hate others, and we need to be more accepting. But then I saw the Nova Peace and Music Festival. And then I saw the children that were burned alive in front of their parents, and while their parents then were killed. It was the manifestation of an evil that I had never seen before. And when you saw evil manifest, now the world is, of course, trying to cover up because how could that breaks the narrative that there's good and evil? That almost rings of God because who's really to say what's good and who's really to say what's evil? I mean, good and God are almost the same word for a purpose. That's the same in German, gut and God. It's almost the same word. It's the same in Dutch because once you believe in good and evil, you're one step away from really believing in God. Because without God, really, what is it? There's monkeys and tigers, and there's your opinion, and there's her opinion, there's my opinion. Who's really to say what's good and what's evil? Once there's no, 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 we all knew. October 7th, that was pure evil. And Antiochus, you should know, the Greek emperor, if he caught a Jewish mother circumcising her baby on the 8th day, they would kill the baby and they would make the mother wear the dead baby around her neck. And she would walk around the streets of Jerusalem with her own dead baby dangling from her neck. Because Greece was also pure evil. The book of Maccabees actually says Antiochus was the root of all evil. And so we're encountering it again because when you encounter real evil, then something happens. You realize that, oh, this isn't philosophy. This isn't an ideology. You know evil on your inside. And if you know evil over there, then you know that as far as we get away from that evil, there must be also a good. And if there is a good and there's an evil, then you know what? There must be a God. And what happens in Hanukkah is when we rededicated the temple, it was a moment. And for me, we struggled through October 7th and we struggled through the war. I mean, imagine where we were a year ago. A year ago, we were just like, oh, we were like reeling and oh, crying, and the war was never ending. And then there was a moment. And for me personally, it's when beepers exploded all over Lebanon and pinpointed the terrorists in a way that had never been seen before in world history. And at that moment, I knew that God was with us, and I knew that we were going to win the war. Then Lebanon fell, then Syria fell, and then good started to emerge, and evil started to retreat into its holes. So, what happened on the third year when they rededicated the temple, those lights that lasted for just those extra days was just enough to give the Jews strength to continue a 20-year battle. And for that moment alone, it was worth it to give faith, to give thanks for the faith that God gave us. And in some ways, that is the heart of Judaism. Because what connects Abraham to Isaac, to Jacob, to Moses, to the temple, the second temple, to the Talmud, to the Rishonim, the Achronim, to YouTube Shorts in 2024, Chabad rabbis? What is that? What is the connection? There is one common theme, and that is that we, the Jewish people, can live a guided life. Abraham lived a guided life. He didn't have a religion yet, but he felt called, not from a voice from heaven. It was clearly an inner calling to go to the land of Israel. And then we were given guidelines of really how to be guided. In Hebrew, mechuvan means guided, but it also means to be in tune, like a musician when you tune your guitar. So you can either be guided and be in tune with reality, or you cannot be in tune, not be guided. And then in Hebrew, we would say you're mizayef. You're actually like out of tune. You're not in harmony with reality. And mizayef, amazingly in Hebrew, means you're also a counterfeit. You're not really living a real life, because a real life is a life that's connected to the oneness of God. And that's why in Hanukkah, every Jew around the world, we spin a dreidel. Why do we spin a dreidel? What is that about? Like, what? Of all of the things that we could have celebrated, I was just in Orlando and I left the airport there and it said, Happy Hanukkah. And there was a dreidel on one side and a dreidel on another side. And that's like the symbol. There's like two symbols. There's the Hanukkah menorah and there's the dreidel. Why is it that ultra Orthodox Jews, Reform Jews, all of the Jews around the world, we all celebrate with a dreidel? What is that? Because in Greek philosophy, it's all in the hands of the gods. There's the god of war, there's Thor, he's banging his anvil, it's making lightning, and we are just living by the random realities of forces that are much larger than us, forces of the gods. And everything out here is just random coincidence. And the Jewish people, it's not that we don't believe in coincidence. We believe in the opposite of coincidence. We believe that everything is one. Everything is guided. Everything is from Hashem. There's no coincidence. There's only providence. And so that miracle of Hanukkah, where the oil lasted longer than it should have, that was just enough providence to give Jews the faith to battle for another 20 years. And always in Hanukkah, we read the Parshas of Joseph. Always. And there's an amazing story that if you don't pay close attention, you'll miss it. But as Joseph is sold into slavery, the Torah goes out of its way and tells us that when Joseph is sent down to slavery, he's sent down on a spice cart pulled by camels. And then Rashi, of course, has to ask a question and answer the question, why is the Torah telling us that he's going down on a spice cart? What is that relevant information? Meaning, if he's going down on a donkey, if he's going down on a horse, he's going down on a cart filled with spices, why is that relevant for us? So Rashi says that just along that path past the Dead Sea, the salesmen from Israel, the Ishmaelites, would usually carry sulfur from the Dead Sea, apparently, and sulfur smells really bad. And Joseph expected, if he's already going to be carried down by Ishmaelites all the way to Egypt, he should naturally be in a cart filled with sulfur and it should smell terrible. But all of a sudden, he finds himself with beautiful fragrances all around him on a spice cart. And from that moment, Joseph never complains. He's sold into slavery. He works for Potiphar, is seduced by Potiphar's wife, doesn't do anything with her, is then accused of a crime he doesn't commit. He's thrown then into prison, into the pits of Egypt with Egyptian criminals. He never complains. He's there for years in prison. And even at the end of his life, when his brothers came to him, Joseph says, you thought that what you did was for bad, but God thought that it was for good. And Rashi's teaching us that that moment of the spice cart was teaching us the essence of Judaism before religion, before the Torah. That Joseph saw that there's providence, that something that's so out of the ordinary doesn't just happen. There is no coincidence. That was like God's signature in his life. Joseph, don't worry. Your brothers have betrayed you. This is the darkest moment of your life. You're being sold into slavery. It doesn't get worse. But here's a spice cart. I want you to know that even in your darkest times, I'm right here with you. And then in this week's Torah portion, Jacob sends his brothers down to meet Joseph. And he tells them, take of the best fruits of the land and take with you spices and mirth. And so without even knowing it, Jacob randomly tells his brothers to relive that experience that Joseph had. That just in case the readers of the Torah years later will be like, okay, it's a spice cart. Then Jacob randomly does another spice cart for his sons to teach all of us that nothing is random. Nothing is a dreidel in life. So the kids happily spin the dreidel, really celebrating the victory of Judaism over Hellenism, because there is no coincidence and everything is in providence. And the Maccabees taught us the first time what emunah shlema is. What does it mean to have complete faith? It doesn't mean that you wear funny hats and grow earlocks and that you're able to really be very orthodox. You're so orthodox, you're ultra orthodox. That's not emunah shlema. Emunah shlema, complete faith, is acting out your faith, taking the first step in faith against impossible odds, saying, God, I know that this is what we should do. We should fight for Jerusalem. We should fight for our independence. We should fight for our sovereignty in the land of Israel and go up against insurmountable odds with complete faith and know that God will deliver us from our faith. And it's really amazing. But Prime Minister Netanyahu was just interviewed by a very religious journalist. And the religious journalist said, so tell us, Prime Minister, are you impressed with all of the miracles that Israel has seen in the last year in war. I mean, they're undeniable. It's incredible. You see the miracles? And Prime Minister Netanyahu, I want to get the direct quote here, although this isn't the direct quote, but this is really the heart of it. He says, God does miracles for people who make miracles for themselves. Miracles happen, but it took brave soldiers to strap on their boots, the emunah shlema, with complete faith, and go out against the enemies in the south, in the west, in the north, in the east, surrounded. But with complete faith, God performs miracles for those who perform miracles to themselves. And that is the essence of Hanukkah. That is why it's so important for us to give thanks, because God forbid we should think the Mossad is so smart. They did beepers and they had this whole thing planned. And years ago, they set up shell companies and they got the right people to sell them to the Hezbollah so that at the right time they would be able to then activate the beepers. And the Mossad is so awesome because the Mossad, the Mossad, the Mossad. Well, the Israeli intelligence also caused October 7th. There were tunnels that were being dug under Israel, and no one had any idea. No one had any idea that the tunnel system inside Gaza was larger than the London subway. No one had any idea. So God is the one that gave this Mossad its brilliance. Who gave the Jews the brilliance to invent the Iron Dome Star Wars technology? Where do ideas come from? They don't come from us, they come through us. And so, as the Maccabees did the same thing, how did they win the war against the mightiest empire in the world? Because they were so innovative and so creative on the battlefield. They were up against one Maccabee to 10 Greek soldiers. That was like an average battle for them. In every battle, the Maccabees won only because of their beepers, only because of their innovation and their creativity and their strategies and their tactics. And so, as soon as they had an opportunity, it wasn't like giving thanks to God because God split the Red Sea. Okay, I can say Hallel when God splits the Red Sea in the Exodus from Egypt. I can also say Hallel when God killed every firstborn in Egypt and somehow spares the firstborn of Egypt. But to give thanks to God when beepers are blowing up all over Lebanon in the most pinpointed terror attack in world history, to then give thanks to God. That's the essence of Hanukkah. So the dreidel is to constantly remind us there is no coincidence, there's only providence. And if our victories are from providence, then we have to give praise to God. But there's something else to be taught. The world now is obsessed with superheroes. They are the most making money films in the world. Whatever it is, Wolverine and Deadpool and the Avengers and Marvel and Batman and Superman. The world loves superheroes. Well, the first superheroes in the world were the Maccabees. They were the first Avengers. They were the first people to go up against impossible odds, and they were the first people to fight for their liberation against an empire. They're the archetype of what it is to be freedom fighters. They were the ones that were fighting for our freedom in Judea, fighting against a colonizing force outside of Israel that was trying to influence Israel on the inside, and Israel liberated itself, fighting for its freedom and independence. But you think about the pain that the Maccabees suffered. I can't even imagine what it would look like seeing a Jewish mother walking around with her dead baby hanging from her neck. That's what the Greeks did to the Jews, aside from the countless murders and the tortures and the crucifixions that was also a Greek invention in Jerusalem. They were evil. And you look at the stories of Marvel superheroes, the stories are very similar, and it's not a coincidence. All heroes and all villains have the same backstory. And that's really interesting, meaning heroes all experienced some kind of pain in their life. Superman had his entire planet explode. His parents, his brothers, his cousins, his friends, they all died. Batman had his parents killed in front of him as he was a little kid. The villains also experience pain in their lives. And then what the villains do is they say, the world hurt me. I want to hurt the world back. Heroes say, I experienced pain. I will do everything that I can to make sure that other people don't have to experience the pain that I experienced. And they become heroes. So heroes use the pain. Villains, the pain uses them. And so the Maccabees were the first people to really teach us how to become real superheroes, to take the pain of the oppression, to take the pain of the Greeks, the influence, not only fight for our independence, but really to take the pain and turn it into light. And I hope, Missy, I don't know if you have it, but if you have the video of the menorah, did I send it to you? Maybe I fell on my head about 6 months ago. I maybe forgot to send it to you, but I wanted to share it with you. A video. I guess you can Google it on YouTube or Twitter. And the Jews in the South have taken the shrapnel of, I don't know, the thousands of rockets that Hamas has shot onto them, and they made this giant Hanukkah menorah out of the shrapnel of all of those rockets. And it's not just that Hanukkah is the festival of lights, but Hanukkah, in its essence, is a festival that we turn the darkness into light, that we use the pain to help motivate us to alleviate the pain of others. And that's really what this holiday is all about. And never before have we had the opportunity to really say the blessing, Bayamim Hahem Bazman Hazeh, in those days at this time. And so, in times when it's darkest, that's when we light the Hanukkah candles. It's the only mitzvah that we do at nighttime. It's the only, I mean, you can eat matzah all 7 days. You can stay in the sukkah all the time. You have to sleep in the sukkah. You have to wake up in the sukkah. You have to shake the lulav in the sukkah. The only mitzvah where it's a mitzvah at night is the Hanukkah candles. It's the darkest time of the year. But that means if it's also the darkest time of the year, the very next day, it's getting a little bit lighter. And it's at that point when there's just a little bit more light that we already give thanks to God, knowing that it's not just random occurrences, but the darkness is from Hashem, the light is from Hashem. And Kislev, this month, is a time where it's kind of cold outside and it's dark outside. And it's that time that we are given the gift of turning darkness into light. Because emunah doesn't mean faith. It doesn't mean belief. It's not like I have emunah in God. That's like a Greek almost way of trying to understand emunah. Faith isn't like I believe in God. I also believe in aliens. Well, do you know that there's aliens? Well, I believe that there's aliens because the universe is so big, and that's not the way that belief in God works. That's definitely not the Hebrew. The Hebrew word emunah comes from the word imun, which means practice, and another word, ne'emanut, which means loyalty. So within the Hebrew word of emunah, the word actually means faith in practice with loyalty. So when you feel it, when you don't feel it, when you want to, you don't want to, you act in faith. And that is the essence of Hanukkah. And the truth is, if there was anyone that acted out his faith in practice with loyalty, it was my dear friend Eliezer both there. I feel like it's not a coincidence that he left the world right as we're approaching Hanukkah, because Hanukkah was really his holiday. He was a commander, not a commander, a warrior in the commando unit in Nachal. And as you saw, he's a poet and a musician. He was like a messianic King David like figure that somehow combined being a Maccabee warrior commando in Sayeret Nachal and also being so sensitive and so kind and gentle to be a poet and a musician and an artist a warrior poet. That's King David, and that was also the Maccabee brothers, because Hanukkah is all about family. Ultimately, it was one family, the Hashmonaim, Matityahu and his sons, that rallied the troops of Hanukkah. And even today, the mitzvah is Ner Ish Uveto. Just light your Hanukkah candles in your home with your family to remember always that the woke, they want to destroy family. They want to destroy marriage. They want to destroy everything sacred that the Torah represents. Hanukkah is coming to bring the family together and remember the Maccabees who were family. And so Eliezer was a part of my spiritual family. And I know that Livnot see themselves as a part of like an extended family as well. And so what more appropriate get together than to bring the Livnot family together on the holiday of families? And I just want to thank you for inviting me to sort of share my thoughts about Hanukkah in modern day Israel. And I appreciate the Boatzer family. And Missy, thank you for putting all this together. And Hanukkah Sameach from the land of Israel.